Here to discuss immigration and the economy is Chris Varvares. He's co-founder and senior managing director at Macroeconomic Advisors. Chris, welcome. It is a complicated issue, a thorny one indeed. But you would think that when the economy has 6 million open positions and really full employment at 4.4%, that you would want more workers to come in to take those jobs and help economic growth.
Yes, you would. You would think that. And certainly when we look at the skill gap and the high-skilled jobs that are available and going wanting for workers, anything that would allow high-skilled workers to enter in greater numbers is good for the economy. And all reform proposals that have considered this in the past find results that is very positive for the economy. On the other hand, on the low-skilled side, I think the evidence is mixed. It's not clear what happens to wages when you allow many more unskilled workers in. It increases demand for goods and services in the economy, which puts in additional demand for workers. So it's not entirely clear that domestic workers are displaced in that situation.
Mm-hmm. You also make the point that it would change the ratio of workers to retirees, which also changes basically the workers paying taxes to support some of the social programs.
Right. So underneath this notion of fewer immigrants coming in is the notion that since they tend to be younger than the indigenous population, that as we roll forward and we see the baby boomers retiring in ever greater numbers, the number of workers per retiree is going down. And to the extent that we have greater immigration, that improves the ratio. We'll have more workers per retiree. So cutting immigration is sort of swimming upstream with respect to how we're going to fund the retirement and Medicare costs for ever increasing numbers of retirees.
You've looked at some numbers, done some modeling, Chris. What would cutting immigration to the extent, legal immigration is what we're talking about here, to the extent that this Senate bill that the president endorsed, at least in part yesterday, what would it do to overall economic growth?
Yeah, well, the arithmetic is pretty simple. Sort of abstracting from a bunch of things that could change this number just a bit. Legal immigration is roughly half of total population growth today. We're growing at about 0.8. If you cut the immigration part in half, you're talking about 0.2 of population growth coming out of the economy, and that would tend to drive about 0.2 of real economic growth, real growth of GDP. So if you cut legal immigration in half, you're going to knock about 0.2 off the growth rate of GDP. Doesn't sound like a lot in any given year, but every year it lowers the level of GDP by 1%. 25 years, the economy is 5% smaller.
Which changes our ranking globally, I would think.
It well could, and when you think about, say, our defense budget as a share of GDP and other programs that we want to fund out of the economy, it's something that needs to be taken into account.
Chris, thank you so much for your insights tonight. Chris Varvares with Macroeconomic Advisors.